incorporating playwriting and play performing into my ministry is exhilarating, but for the content, but it's still exhilarating because I get to celebrate all I have left. And unfortunately, not all I had was good, and not all I have left is pretty. But I think that the focus of American Christianity today is bent on judgment and bent on what other people are doing. And when not you, because I wouldn't wish this on my friends, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemies, let alone my friends. When someone goes through such a tragic loss, you really learn what the truth is and what matters very quickly. And you learn that the amount of time you spend worrying about the opinions of others is only exceeded by the amount of time you spend giving them something to worry about your opinion of them. And you realize what a waste of life that is. That nobody should be dying. There shouldn't be accidents, there shouldn't be illness, there shouldn't be death. I heard a great Christian scholar refer to it as he had lost his son, and he said that the death of my son wasn't unnatural, it was demonic. That death is a product of sin, and it wouldn't be here. It wouldn't be here if we had been obedient to God, if we had been who God created us to be. Our children wouldn't be killed in the desert in stupid accidents. As if to rub my nose in it, and the noses of my other children and their mom, we got notification that the gentleman who was in the accident with my son, who had left the scene and had been arrested and was charged with, the hit and run and so forth, that he's now escaped and skipped town, and there's a warrant out for his arrest, and everything's on hold again, and I've been really good not to make him the center of this, and I will continue because he's not the center of it. It was an accident. He just got scared and left. Doesn't make it okay, but it makes it the truth. But so many people will hear that, and so many people, and in this instance I'm pointing at Christians, will criticize and judge and so forth, and again, you have no idea what you would do in his shoes. I have no idea what I would do in his shoes if I were in an accident and a kid got killed. I can't sell you 100%. I would stand there and just say, sure, I'll wait for the police to get here. I'm not sure, I might get scared and run. I'm not ashamed of being a coward. If a coward dies 1,000 times before their death, doesn't that mean I get to see Jesus 1,000 times before the big day? So maybe it's not so bad. But again, the focus of everything is on someone else. I post on Facebook that my son died, and the majority of responses had to do with the bastard that killed him. And that's how people are. And people were showing me support by doing that, but they weren't supporting my philosophies, because those aren't my philosophies. I've never talked about them like that, and I don't even think about them, ever. I've thought about him without someone bringing him up maybe 3 times since my son died. And I thought about my son maybe 3 million times a second that whole time. But it's just, and all of us, the whole family, speak for the whole family, we all feel the exact same way about it, that we want Frisco to be the star of Frisco's death, period, and that's it. Mick Jagger's girlfriend died, and that's her name, Mick Jagger's girlfriend. And that's the world we live in, and I just did it because I don't know her name. I'm a huge Mick Jagger fan, but I don't know her name. I'd recognize it if you said it, and I'd say, oh, that's Mick Jagger's girlfriend. That's how we think. In 1 Peter, Peter writes, Therefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober and rest your hope fully upon the grace that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ, as obedient children, not conforming yourselves to the former lusts as in your ignorance. You know, we hear lust in the Bible and all we think about is sex, 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 sex. Well, at least that's all I think about, but I've been single for a really long time. And, but these people weren't just going around like, the movie Caligula. They actually had lives, and a lot of the lusts that are addressed in the New Testament have to do with opinion, have to do with lifestyle, and I mean lifestyle of being judgmental, gossipy. The majority of the New Testament attack on behavior has to do with interpersonal relationships in regards to how your sensitivity or lack thereof makes other people feel about God. That when you are amazing and loving and sensitive towards someone, they will be more open to there actually being a God than if you're a prick. That's what the Bible says. Read it. It says prick in the Bible. I have a whole list of things you can look up in the Bible that I say for moments like that. A little out of context maybe, but you know what I mean. But seriously, so he's saying you guys are different now. My gosh, if you just accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you should be what? Happy? Grateful? I don't know, forgiven of all your sins and spending eternity in a different place than where you were headed? How do you treat humanity? What did Jesus say about it? Jesus said, well, if your master forgives you your debt and you go and beat the debt, the payment out of someone else, and your master finds out, woe to you. He says it over and over and over and over again. How you treat people is a reflection of how I've treated you. And if your reflection doesn't reflect me, we're going to do something about your mirror. We're going to do something about your mirror. And it ain't going to be pretty. As obedient children, not conforming yourselves to the former lusts as in your ignorance, but as he who called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct, because it is written, be holy, for I am holy. He's going all the way back to Leviticus, all the way back to the Old Testament law, and saying, be holy. Holy, separate, different, unimaginatively pure, excitingly, enticingly kind. Very hard to find anyone who's not a Christian who's going to use those kind of words about Christians nowadays. Very rare we hear, oh, them Christians. You know, I'm not one of them Christians, but them Christians, they're so nice, they're so friendly. Oh my gosh, I had a problem and they came right over and they da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, we don't hear that. That's so 80s, you know. When I became a Christian, you know, I remember being part of troops that went and helped people, you know. And so I know at least in my circles people were saying it, but that's not the way it is anymore. Christians are trying to ruin the world. Christians are destroying America. That's the kind of stuff we're hearing. Christians are taking away my rights. Wow. And if you call on the Father, who without partiality judges according to each one's work, meaning whether you're a Christian or not, he doesn't change his opinion on what he deems worthy of human behavior. Conduct yourselves throughout the time of your stay here on earth, in fear. Conduct your lives for the length of time you stay here on earth in fear, knowing that you were not redeemed with corruptible things. I just spent a week on this without repeating myself. You were not redeemed with corruptible things. So whatever's good about you is corruptible. Whatever's good in your life is corruptible. Every single blessing you have is corruptible. If you're pretty, you can get older. If you're smart, you can have some type of illness or accident that makes you totally not in control of your faculties. If you are rich, you can lose it all. It goes on and on. If you have a great husband, well, they can run off with their secretary. If you got great kids, maybe one will get killed. They're all corruptible. Every single thing that you brag about your success in life can be ruined in a second, in a heartbeat. Every single thing. You were not redeemed with corruptible things like silver or gold from your aimless conduct received by the tradition of your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ, as a lamb without blemish and without spot. You were redeemed, you were purchased by something that cannot be corrupted. Can your relationship with God through Christ be corrupted? Yes, on your end. Not on his. Everything else can be corrupted without your control. The only thing that can corrupt your relationship with Jesus is you. The only thing that can corrupt your relationship with God is you. Every single thing else in your life can be ruined beyond your control. And it is the human nature to satiate themselves with confidence that the things I have acquired, whether they are beauty or money or success or friends, family, relation, the good stuff, even leading countless people to Christ, anything, the things that we do that make us feel successful in our lives and like good people and like good old Christians can be destroyed in a second. And the only single thing that cannot be destroyed in a second is the incorruptibility that is Christ and the relationship we have with him, as long as we don't corrupt it. He indeed was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who through him believe in God, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are in God. Peter's saying that, well, let me rephrase this. Peter is saying, as a matter of fact, sort of like, how are you doing? Or I thought about your wife the other day. Or missing those key lime pies. He says, as a matter of fact, hinty, hinty, hint. He's saying, as a matter of fact, you've been purchased by something incorruptible. So don't make yourself feel comfy and cozy by the things that are corruptible in your life. He's just saying it in passing. It was really only a sentence. It wasn't a sermon. It should be a sermon. And tonight, well, it kind of is. But it is the human nature to look around at our circumstance and see how we're doing. Well, anyone who can fit into these boots and look around your circumstance and see how you're doing for the past 3 months, well, yeah, that's not so good. Not so good. Anyone who's been around me has heard me say over and over again, there's one thing that hasn't been altered. There's one thing that hasn't been changed. It's been challenged. It's been rattled. It's been shook. I may not feel like talking about it much, but the incorruptibility of my relationship with Christ is intact, because I'm not going to screw that up. I'm not going to trample on my hope in my hopelessness. That would be stupid. But it's not about me. It's about our nature, and it's about our desire to feel comfortable in our skin and our desire to be comfortable on our walk, on our path, on our journey, we want these feelings, we want these sensations. My concern is they're not ours to have. That's my concern. My concern is peace and peace of mind are not the same thing. And I'm not sure they can even dwell in the same place at all times. And I think that love and passion and unconditional love and friendship are all different subject matters, and they may not be compatible at the same time either. And I think that the more mature the spiritual man gets, he learns that the only constant is that which is constant and not wavering, that which is incorruptible, and that is Christ. So Christ is compatible in all circumstances, even the worst, I've learned. And my relationship with Christ is compatible in all situations, even the worst. But on his terms and not mine. Because anyone would totally side with me and say, I think it's fair to say that God owes me that my kids outlive me. I think it's fair to say that God owes me that after all I've done for him. Seems a reasonable expectation. He owes me what he's promised me. And that's eternal relationship with him by accepting the provision that is Christ. And the peace that comes with that. Notice how he calls it his peace. I give you my peace, not your own peace of mind. How could I have peace of mind? How could I possibly have peace of mind? I'd be more crazy than I really am if I had peace of mind. I'm good. I have a peace with this. I have a peace with it. Really? You have 2 other kids and you're cool? You have 2 other shoes that can drop, buddy. No, I don't have peace of mind. Peace of mind is overrated. But there's a peace that surpasses all understanding, that is incorruptible, that is eternally and every second available to me if I am willing to get in the presence of Christ. Because his peace he gives me, because I don't have any. His peace he gives me. And his peace says, eternity is a very long time. And it is a very different environment. And I'm going to, through my peace, give you a sense of that eternity. I'm going to give you a sense of that eternity. And that's going to give you immediate peace of mind about your circumstance. But it surpasses all understanding. So you're going to feel peace of mind about the horror that is your life, Paisley. However, you're not going to understand it. You're not going to wrap your mind around it. You're just going to have it. And if you choose, Paisley, to take your corruptible mind, which is the most corruptible part of my body, and make it a demand that I will only accept the peace of Christ if I can wrap my mind around it and understand it, and in this case, be really cool and be able to explain it to others so they're impressed by my ministry. To that, God says, I'm God, you're not, son. So, will you get into my presence and allow me to give you a peace that surpasses all understanding? Even if you don't understand it and you can't share it with others. Will you allow me to give you something incorruptible in the midst of all this corruption? And of course I say, hell yeah. Hell yeah, I'll take anything at this point. But in the midst of losing my son And God knows what the last 5 days were. I mean, there's people here that were in the room with me, and I know they've thought at least once, I can't believe that's the same person that we saw 48 hours ago. There had to be a moment tonight where you guys just said, wow, he's really faking it. Wow. He talk about cleaning up good. I have a picture of what they had to look at. It's gruesome. But, you know, the nurses would come in, the doctors would come in, they say, it's funny, you're in a really good mood for someone who has absolutely no mobility, no freedom, can't do anything without permission, and just had a near-death experience, and you're nowhere near out of the woods, and even when you go home, they could all start up again and you could die. But really, you seem really, really chipper. And I said very simply, this is not the worst thing that's ever happened to me. This is not the worst thing that's ever happened. It's sure as hell the worst thing that's ever happened to my body, and that's saying a lot. But compared to what's happened to my heart over the last few months, whatever. Please, sir, may I have another? It's a reality. But I'm fine. I'm fine. I was laying there, and the last thing I was doing was, why God, why? I was doing a lot of, how come you didn't do this for the last 30 years I've known you? Why did you wait till now? You could have used me as your human punching bag for 30 years and enjoyed all this. No, I mean, really, I didn't even have a pity party there. I didn't have a pity party. There's no cake. Can't have a pity party without cake. But I thought a lot about my kids, and I thought a lot about tonight, and if I was ever going to live and make it to the night. And I'd already looked at the scripture for this week, which is unusual, that I usually look it up that day, if I even remember. And but I looked it up, and I thought about this. I make myself comfortable with my surroundings, and I make myself feel safe and successful in the Lord and a good Christian by my what I call successes. Or I visited someone in the hospital today. I must be a Christian today, kind of stuff. And you know, then the rug is pulled out from under me, and you know, something catastrophic happens, and then something else catastrophic happens while the other thing is still happening, and then I get over the catastrophic thing to run home to get back in my catastrophe. And I'm happy to be here because I got out of the other catastrophe. I mean, I'm sitting there and going, it's a good thing I don't do that. It is a good thing. I do not look at my life and grade my relationship with God on how well I'm doing my life in front of others. And I hate the Job comparison, and I'm really going to end this soon. I hate the Job comparison to my circumstance. I hate it. There's a million reasons why I hate it. I don't even like teaching on Job. It's the only book in the Bible I don't care for. And I don't care for it because it always said there could be a day, Paisley, that your kids could get killed. That's the truth. That is the honest truth. The same reason I don't like Eric Clapton's Tears from Heaven, because every time I heard it, I said, I love Eric Clapton, and if I were God, I wouldn't let that happen to his kid. Maybe it could happen to one of mine. I mean, that's the reality. But the thing about Job was that the people around him kept saying, you have done something to bring this on yourself. And what he did to bring that on himself, because he did. He was amazingly faithful to the Most High God, to the point that it pissed off Satan so much that he begged God's permission to try to bring him down, and God thought it was cool because there was no way Job was going down. Hate that reference. I don't want to be that amazing ever again. I'd rather be average after what I've experienced. I'd rather be average. And yet that is the point of the book of Job. The point of the book of Job is that it is possible to have your entire circumstances, inside and out, utterly devastated and destroyed. The guy was covered in boils. One boil makes you feel like the Elephant Man. and it hurts. You don't want to tell anybody. You don't want to go out, even if it's like hidden by clothing. The whole world can see it. The whole world knows you have a boil. I mean, even call it something to embarrass you. Why couldn't they call it a flower? Don't mind me, I have a flower. I remember I had pet sitters come to the house, and forgive me for adding the fact that it was two women, but it really does add to the spice of the story. But these two women came to the house and to check out my house and meet my pets, and the woman I had talked to on the phone had this great personality, and she wasn't doing any talking. And the other woman was doing all the talking, but she really didn't have the sales pitch down pat. But it was, two best friends that had a pet sitting business. And the woman who had talked to me on the phone was walking around gingerly and had a grimace on her face the whole time. And I swear she's like Child Protective Services, but for animals. That this is a surprise visit. That say they got a call that I was mistreating my pets and she's judging my house. And finally I said, you're a very uptight woman. You're really gregarious on the phone, but in person you're like, I don't know, are you from some social worker office, some sort, and social services? And she goes, forgive me, I have a hemorrhoid. So it's almost impossible for me to walk, and impossible for me to walk and talk at the same time, and certainly without making a face. I'm very sorry. I go, it's really okay, lady. Really okay. And she goes, no, I'm not finished. I have a fissure. A what? A fissure. What on God's green earth is a fissure, lady? I know what a fissure is now, because the pet sitter told me. A boil, a hemorrhoid. Job was covered in that stuff. You know what I mean? He had everything wrong with everything wrong with everything wrong at a time where if you had a zit, you were unclean. He was chosen as someone who would never judge his own circumstance as a reflection of his righteousness in God, fisher or not. When the movie Fisher King came out, I had a field day with this story. So we, on the other hand, judge everybody based on their successes and accomplishments, whatever that is. And I have to be honest, there are people whose financial accomplishments I envy and compare to my own, Lady Gaga. No, but I mean, people in the, in my industry that I look at who, I have more talent in a fingernail, but we won't go there. But, that I'm jealous of and I have feelings, but I know that's ugly. I know what I just said was ugly. I recognize it as ugly, not righteousness and not rightness. But the thing I've always judged against myself and others is people's success with their families. There's no divorces, and their kids all love the Lord, and they're all healthy and really well behaved. So I would judge someone whose kid died as a weak link somewhere in their spiritual life. I would judge them. I'm like, wow, you really have to leave one hell of a door open for something like that to get in and happen in your life. I would. Maybe not today, of course, because now I'm on the other side and I know a lot more than I did. I also know that my Bible addresses this others based on what is corruptible, and stop judging yourself based on what's corruptible, and stop building on what's corruptible, and stop affirming and satiating yourself with what's corruptible. Enjoy what's corruptible. Enjoy these things we get to enjoy, but be careful of calling them blessings, because they may be curses 20 years later. Everything has a beginning and a middle and an end. And the end may not suit your concept of blessing. My kid's mom, notice I don't call her my ex-wife. I give her the one name that I won't ever say anything bad when I say it. So no matter where we are in our fighting cycle, she's my kid's mom. And I have a 3 times a year ritual. On our kids' birthdays, one of us wishes the other one a happy birthday. And today I got through the day without saying those words about my recently deceased son. And I talked to her on the phone, and at the very end of the conversation, when we were hanging up, and damn it, she said, "Oh, happy birthday." And I was in the car, and on Bluetooth, and I started bawling in the car. And gosh, I wish you hadn't said that. I thought I was going to make it through. I thought you had to go there. And she said, "Well, it didn't turn out the way we wanted, but it still was a really good day, wasn't it?" It was a good day when our son was born. And I sat there and I went, "Oh yeah, you were on drugs. You missed the whole thing. You have no idea what that day was like." Wow. Talk about delusion. Talk about delusion. Maybe later it was a nice day, but the majority, no. The next day wasn't so bad. Gosh. Wow. It was a nice day. Really? Nice day in hell, baby. But seriously, I mean, there was a demonstration of that which cannot be corrupted. Our kid can die, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he lived, and it doesn't take away from the fact that he was amazing. It just didn't end well. It just didn't have a happy ending. And there is not a single human being that is not guilty of building their confidence in themselves, in others, and in their God based on what is around them that makes them feel safe and content and successful. We all do this. It's a trap. It's a trap. Because the rug gets pulled out from under us. Always. And sometimes it's almost intentional. That thing we feel the best about is the one to go. It's like that on American Idol for me. If I have a favorite, so it's a miracle this year that Caleb is still on American Idol, because he's been my favorite from the start, and he's past the point where even if he gets kicked off, he's already made himself known. So this is one of the first years that it hasn't happened. But my favorite TV shows get knocked off first, and that's petty, I know. It's petty, I know. But I could talk about my dead kid all night too. But this is a human frailty that hurts every individual constantly. It's like a silent killer of hopefulness and peace. To feel great about something in your life so much that you cross the line into thinking you have arrived at something. Well, now I have this, and this, and this, and this. Wow, that feels great. Because in this life, this, and this are all going. Unless you die first. That is the fact. Every single thing we have in our lives will be taken from us if we're not taken from it. That is how life works. Everything ends. So if you're like me and you're immortal, it's all going to go. It's all going to go. I'm going to outlive everyone and everything. Seriously. That's it. That's it. That money will spend you. And I'm not attacking people with money. I'm jealous of people with money sometimes, but certain people. Not everybody. You invent the iPod. I never ever thought of Steve Jobs as not being worthy of having all that money. You invent something that every human being literally depends on. I'm kind of impressed. If you're CeeLo Green, I feel different. But But, how do I want to wrap this up? Stop being schmucks. How's that? Thank you all very much. I really appreciate you coming.